Welcome to this bonus episode of Mating Matters. Yes, we're still on our summer break, but we're not breaking. We're making amazing episodes for season 2 that's going to launch in September. So, we do watch the news. There's a dude right now. Oh my goodness. An alpha male named Jeffrey Epstein. Evolutionary psychologists would look at the scandal around financier Jeffrey Epstein in an entirely different way than the moralizing media. Well, we all need to have morals to survive with each other, right? Those group rules for the tribe. So if you've been living under a rock and haven't heard the news, he's apparently a billionaire who has houses in Paris, private islands in the Caribbean, ranches in New Mexico, and the biggest house in Manhattan at 24,000 square feet. It used to be a private school, and then he turned it into a house. He worked in finance and then started his own investment company with his name on the door. But he only takes clients that make $1 billion, or they have assets of $1 billion at least. So anyway, somehow he got commissions, investing all their money, I guess, and he's uber rich. Now, the scandal is this. He has been arrested for allegedly sex trafficking minors. See, we just have to keep saying the word alleged, 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 and we can tell you the whole story. What I can tell you is true is that in Palm Beach, Florida, one of his other mansions, he was convicted in 2008 of something similar. Look, here's what he likes to do, according to the media. Have young women under the age of 18, some reportedly as young as 14, over to his house for massages. Yeah, if you're a billionaire, wouldn't you hire like the Lakers trainer or some professional massage therapist? No, teenage girls who really should be working at Starbucks. But he has them over to give him massages. But then apparently it moves into other things and in sexual nature. And then when they leave, he gives them hundreds of dollars, I guess, to keep their pretty little mouths shut. Well, this happened back in 2008. He was convicted in Florida. However, he had enough powerful men that he could coerce, buy off, I don't know, that he was able to get this prison sentence, 13 months. But get this, they let him out of prison to go to work. Actually, they let him out of prison to go to work for 16 hours a day, which means that he only went to the prison to sleep in the bunk, which was his own special private quarters there at the prison. Come on. All right. See, I'm moralizing, and I shouldn't be. Let me talk to you as an evolutionary psychologist about what's going on. First of all, why do alpha males try to accumulate so many resources? Rich men aim to become rich, unconsciously or consciously, for one reason, so that they can have access to mates, more mates, and higher status mates, the more beautiful women, the superstars, right? That's why the rock stars date the supermodels, why the athletes date the actresses, right? They get enough money, then you can get a prettier woman. But some of the highest status mates, I hate to say it, are young virginal girls who haven't been touched by another man. Guaranteed, from an evolutionary standpoint, virgins are better because you're sure that no other man has impregnated her, and any offspring that come out of it will be yours. Now, on a conscious level, Epstein is not running around saying, I'm going to get them pregnant. I'm just saying that we have these whispers from our anthropological past that govern our behavior, and they are largely out of our awareness. That's why we call it unconscious. So we have laws that protect these young, supposedly virginal women, right? Who do you think makes the laws against sex with minors? Do you think women have had a lot of power in the judiciary in the last centuries? No. It's men who are envious of the power of the rich man. So slightly lower status men, although educated because they went to law school, they run the judicial system. And they want to keep those mates, those young virginal girls, off the mating market as long as possible while they attempt to accrue more resources to hopefully afford one of them. So it's men, I'm making my fingers in quotation marks now, protecting young women. But what they're really doing is keeping the mates off the mating marketplace until they mature a little and then hopefully until those men make more money and can hopefully get one. So why do we have laws, for instance, against prostitution? Again, these laws were made by men, not women. It keeps females off the mating marketplace where rich men could access them, right? If every woman could sell sex comfortably, forget about the moral question, let's just do the legal question right now, could comfortably sell sex, they would sell it to the highest bidder. So again, those high status alpha males with the money would be paying for it. The other thing making laws against prostitution does is it keeps women from raising the price of sex. It keeps women from owning their own commodity and marketing it. It is men controlling women and their reproduction. That's what all laws against prostitution are. Remember, men want women to be economically disadvantaged. If a woman is dependent on a man, she's going to end up having to use sex. If you listen to some of my other podcast episodes, you know that in cultures where women are disadvantaged, you will find that marriage rates go up, that more children are born into wedlock so a man can know who his offspring are. He makes her dependent on him. Virginity is coveted, again, to make sure other man hasn't had access to her eggs. And prostitution rates go way up because when women can't fairly extract resources from the environment, they, have to monetize their vaginas in some way. Okay, so why is it different now? They arrested Mr. Epstein at, I guess, probably where his private jet landed at a private airport in New Jersey. The lawyer said, you can't let him go. He's a flight risk. He owns private jets. He's going to try to pay off his victims and the victims' families, as he reportedly did years ago. Why are his legal problems going to be taken more seriously in 2019 than they were in 2008? Well, first of all, we have more women in media who are telling the story. We also have more women in law who are involved in this. We also have more men in law who have compassion for women and a greater understanding, because remember, we're evolving. Listen to the episode called The Price of Manhood for more on that. But there are plenty of men now who can sense and feel what is right for women. And finally, we are post-Me Too, where victims now are braver to speak forward. Not so long ago, any victim in a situation like that or the teenager's family wouldn't want to put their teen through a trial. They might take a settlement, a payoff to not speak. Now I think many women and teens who are victims of sexual assault, and I should say many of these victims may be women now, right? Because he's 66 years old, and apparently this has been a hobby for a long time. And so some of these women may look back at their teenage years, see the trauma that they endured, and be brave and willing to speak forward. So it's a different game now. It's going to be very interesting to watch how the legal system handles this, because we are seeing how human beings are adapting to a new environment. Alpha males don't get to hoard all the resources, which means hoarding all the females. Men are now helping to understand the needs of women. Women are more involved in the judiciary system. It's going to be a different ball game for Jeffrey Epstein. And my prediction is that he will serve real jail time this time. So that's my take on it. I'll be watching it closely from an evolutionary standpoint, of course. We'll have more Mating Matters in future weeks. Always stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you tell friends about Mating Matters. Those of you who have been contacting us to be voices in some of our upcoming episodes, I'm so grateful to you. And I'm also grateful to the really nice things you've been saying to producer Brooke Peterson and I about how much you like the podcast, which is great. We recorded this bonus episode of Mating Matters in July of 2019. a few weeks after, the New York Times reported that Mr. Epstein had taken his own life in his prison cell in New York. Now, there are many, many theories about his death, some outrageous conspiracy theories. Take your pick. Either he committed suicide because he was so distraught about being imprisoned, or he was allowed to commit suicide and not put under suicide watch after a supposed earlier attempt because certain people didn't want him alive. There's also talk that he was killed by somebody because his black book was so dangerous to many powerful people who supposedly flew on his private jets and attended his parties on his private island in the Caribbean where underage girls were forced to have sex with them. We don't know the truth. I think the most outrageous conspiracy theory is that he's not dead. And once they got the wrapped up body in the ambulance, they switched it with another body. Who knows? If you're listening to this much later, you'll probably know more than I do at this point. The good news is that the government is trying to freeze all his assets. At this point, there are more than 80 victims who have come forward, having been victims of child sexual assault by Jeffrey Epstein. All the way around, a tragic and sad story. Mating Matters is produced in partnership with iHeartMedia. It is researched, interviewed, and written by me, Dr. Wendy Walsh, and it is edited and produced by Brooke Peterson. You know, people don't learn about podcasts usually by just searching around. They learn about a podcast because somebody who loved that podcast told them about it. So please subscribe, write a review, and more than anything, hit that share button now. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh. If you'd like to call the Mating Matters message line, you certainly can. The number is 323-207-8277. That's 323-207-8277. If you got a question, we want to hear it. Or maybe you have a comment. Either way, we love to hear from you, our listener.